If you're learning Chinese in a university classroom setting, you have a limited scope for creativity in how you choose to learn the language. When you're not in the classroom, in your own time, you have to be creative in coming up with ways to make practicing the language interesting, rewarding, and effective. But ultimately, the quizzes, the tests, and the exams will be based on the vocabulary list found in the index to the textbook that the professor has chosen. In this series of YouTube videos, I am not going to present a critique of the integrated Chinese language course. I'm going to provide an alternative to that language course, but this alternative could be used as a supplement to that language course because I'm going to work with fundamentally the same vocabulary list, the same list of words that you must memorize if you're going to do well in a university course that is based on, that presumes, knowledge of the integrated Chinese textbook series. The first word you're taught in this textbook is how, and you're taught to memorize that it means good, and then when the test comes and the exam comes, you should just learn to write the word itself and give the English definition as good. I am not entirely convinced that this is the most interesting way to teach a language like Chinese, and I'm also not convinced that it's the most efficient or effective way to teach the language. Isn't it a bit more interesting for you as a student, even if this is level 1, day 1 in Chinese, for you to have some awareness, for you to have some little bit of warning that the word how means much more than the English word good? In fact, it's a fascinating example of how the Chinese take a single syllable in their language and manage to get so much use out of it, so many different possible meanings out of it. And look, you can't memorize it all. There's no doubt when the time comes to write your exam or your test and they ask you, what is the meaning of the word how? You're going to have to write how means good, just like everyone else. But as soon as you start taking an interest in the real language as it's used in the real world, even if you just go to Google and do a Google search, you're going to see sentences like this one where how does not mean good at all. If you don't know any of the vocabulary, don't worry about it for now. The sentence reads, 请给我你的手机号码，好随时联系。
请给我你的手机号码，好随时联系。
Please give me your cell phone number in order to contact you at any time. Maybe that should be the first sentence that everyone learns in Chinese. Maybe we should make that the new standard. Isn't it interesting? Here you see how is used to give the sense of in order to do something. You can think of this etymologically like it would be good if, but that's not the meaning here. Please give me your cell phone number so that I can contact you at any time in order to contact you at any time. Just one more example like this. And again, I understand if you're a beginner, there's a lot of vocabulary here you don't know, and that's okay. But just appreciate how much you're missing out on if all you learn is that how means good. I want to live with a local family in order to practice the spoken language.
我想住在当地人家里，好练习口语。
Again, look at the word circled in red. It doesn't say in order to, it says how. Although I said that this series of videos will not be a critique of the integrated Chinese textbook, once in a while I'm going to make the vocabulary more interesting by contrasting what the textbook teaches you to the way people speak Chinese in real life. Because I've got to tell you, I did the course, I got an A++, I studied this textbook for level 1 in a university, and then I got to China, and nobody understood the phrase
你贵姓？
Level 1, Chapter 1, you are taught that the polite way to ask someone's name is to say 你贵姓. Maybe there's some province in China where in the local dialect that makes sense, but I've got to tell you, everywhere I've been, every Chinese person I ever spoke to did not understand that phrase, neither in spoken Chinese nor even in written Chinese, when it should be clear. They were just like, what? What are you talking about? So that's a remarkable example, and it's on the first page of the first chapter of the first lesson, where this textbook is really teaching you something that's very misleading, if not simply wrong. Now, how do Chinese people actually say that they don't know your name? Well, one effective but not terribly polite way is just to say, 你好, 你是谁? Hello, you are who? Chinese people do say that. That is a norm. People have said that to me. I've said that to Chinese people. Nobody gets offended. But it's true. It's not all that polite. If you really want to be polite, you have to join in the great East Asian custom of carrying with you at all times a business card. They normally say in English there, a name card. And then you can say something like, 对不起, 我没有你的名片. You can say this while you give them your own name card. You're saying to them, oh, pardon me, I'm sorry, I don't have your name card. So this is a polite way of saying, I don't know your name. You're giving them a name card that lets that person know your name. And of course, this is very polite in Chinese culture. It's also very effective because the truth is, just hearing the sound of someone's name is not enough. Figuring out how to spell it, figuring out the correct Chinese characters, may still be a little bit of a challenge if you don't exchange little pieces of paper. This is one of the many words you're expected to memorize for Unit 1, Lesson 1 of this Level 1 textbook. And you're encouraged to just memorize it with the meaning, my name is, 叫.
叫
You would be tested, most likely by your professor, to check that you understand that this normally refers to your first name, not to your family name. The better students in the classroom might look it up in a dictionary, might look it up using digital dictionary software, and might notice that it really has several other unrelated meanings. But, if you're working at a fast pace, week to week, chapter to chapter, you probably don't have time to even memorize those other meanings. Some of you may feel comfortable with the ambiguity of that. You may think, well, okay, I'm just going to learn this one meaning of the word, and then maybe it won't later trip me up so much that there are 6 or 7 other meanings of the word in the dictionary that I'm just going to ignore for the time being. I would advise against that attitude. Learning a language is like going to a tailor. If you stitch something up the wrong way, later you have to tear out all the stitches and do it all over again. Relearning something, challenging bad habits of mind, and it's much more difficult than getting it right the first time. But you might have that attitude. Well, okay, I'm going to live with a certain amount of fog in my appreciation of the Chinese language. Well, how would you handle the 2 sentences we're about to look at right now? They would be utterly perplexing and paradoxical to you when you encounter them in Chinese. And you will. And furthermore, I defy you. Go ahead and check your dictionary. I think the use, meaning, and function of jiao that I'm about to explain to you, it will either not be mentioned in your dictionary at all, or it'll be mentioned so briefly and so cryptically that you couldn't possibly figure it out from the dictionary alone. Here we go. So this opens with 付钱时. This might seem like very, very advanced Chinese, but this is all pretty much level 1 vocabulary. To pay money. 付钱, okay? 时 is one of the first words you learn within the first couple of chapters. This is 时候, the 时, right? So at the time of paying money, 付钱时我发现钱包叫小偷给偷走了。
付钱时我发现钱包叫小偷给偷走了。
At the time of paying, that's the first 3 syllables. 付钱时 I discovered 我发现钱包. So if you don't know 钱包, no big deal, but it's a simple noun. You can guess because you probably know the word 钱. So 钱包 is wallet or something like that. A wallet, I think it could also be a purse. Anything that contains money like that. I discovered that my wallet had been stolen. What does the word jiao mean in this sentence? If all you've learned is that the word jiao means, hi, my name is, and then it's followed by your first name, you would be utterly perplexed and regard this as quite paradoxical. And you might want to reassure yourself by saying, oh, well, that's a really advanced usage. I'll only encounter it once in a while. No, it's not. This is standard, everyday spoken Chinese. This is not literary Chinese. This is not reading the ancient texts of Confucius. This is normal, basic Chinese you need to know. Here's a much simpler sentence with a similar sort of paradox in the meaning of the word jiao. 他哥哥不叫他去. I'm overpronouncing the tones here. 他哥哥不叫他去.
他哥哥不叫他去.
他哥哥, his brother. Now, even if you had learned the supplemental meaning of jiao, meaning to call out, to cry out, when a duck quacks, that's jiao. When a cat makes a meowing or purring sound, I believe that's also jiao. Now I forget, is it meowing or purring? One of them is jiao. There's a whole bunch of these different words, different meanings related to calling out. Jiao is also meant to call out an order to a waiter, a few things like that. You might read this and assume ta ge, his brother, did not tell him to go. But no, the actual meaning here is his brother did not allow him to go. So there's a whole category of meanings with jiao that are vaguely similar to the passive voice in English. They have to do with allowing something to happen, or in the case of being robbed by a thief, the happenstance of something having been the case. It expresses something vaguely similar to the passive voice in English, but of course, technically, by definition, it is not a passive voice construction in terms of grammar and the science of linguistics. If I have 2 or 3 people in the audience with PhDs in linguistics, they will be angrily banging their 4 to 6 fists on the table with rage that I would dare to refer to this as a passive voice. But let's just look at 2 more examples really quickly. 我叫他打了.
我叫他打了.
This is a great example of a meaning of the word jiao that you will not figure out from your dictionary, and you will not even be able to figure out with Google Translate. Not in the year 2020, maybe in the distant future when the software improves.
我叫他打了.
I, by him, was beaten, or I, by him, was punched. And Google Translate gets this 100% wrong with I told him to hit. So the function of jiao here, again, vaguely similar to a passive voice in terms of how it structures the sentence, tells you the subject of the sentence, so on and so forth. And then the very bottom of the screen, jiao 我的女儿, okay? By my daughter, 给弄丢了. By my daughter, it was lost. What is the function of jiao in this sentence? You can think of it as a passive voice. You can make up another explanation in your own mind. But if you're not aware of this, I'm not saying you can memorize everything. I'm not saying you can master everything in lesson 1 of your level 1 textbook. But if you are not aware of the full range of meanings of the word jiao, then when you encounter this, your dictionary won't be able to help you, Google Translate won't be able to help you, and you'll be working on the false assumption that you know the meaning of the word jiao because your textbook told you that all it means is, hi, my name is.